Centenarians is really not secrets because they want to keep it a secret. These are secrets because most of the world doesn't really know, right? And most of the world thinks that, well, it's just up to chance. It's genetics. Or I just happen to be lucky and be born in a lucky, prosperous country, right? A developed country and not like a undeveloped country. Some of the countries in the world, their average life expectancy, it's like 45 or 50. Well, it's not because everyone dies at 45 or 50. It averages out that way. You understand that concept? So to help you understand, many of my patients, they say, well, doc, we've made such great scientific advances that, in the old days, 100 years ago in 1900, Americans, the average life expectancy was like 45. And then now we're at 80. And so we've really advanced. And what they don't understand is they don't understand statistics. You see? You've heard of statistics and how tricky they are. Tricky is a euphemism. They say there are lies, there are bad lies, and there are lies of perdition. I'm going to say it in a kosher way. There are lies of perdition, and those are called statistics. So if you don't understand statistics, you're going to think that we're doing great. We doubled the life of everyone. Do you know how long Benjamin Franklin lived? He lived into old age, older than most of us are going to live. How is it that the average age, life expectancy 100 years ago, even 1900, was 45 or 50, and then today it's 80? It's very simple. If you had a grandfather, 80 years old, 79 years old, and he was taking his 1-year-old great-grandchild for a wagon ride, and that wagon fell into the river in the middle of winter, and both of them died. What is the average age, life expectancy of those two people? The 1-year-old and the 79-year-old? You all know how to do that? 40. You take 79, you add the 1, and you divide by 2 people. So you got 80, and you divide it by 2, you got 40. So the average life expectancy for that great-grandpa and the baby was 40. Does that mean everyone died at 40? No, it means that the child mortality skewed the numbers bad, right? And so when you have, like, in Africa, some of the countries, their life expectancy is like 45. Why? Not because every person's going to die when they get to 45. It's because half the babies die of either diarrhea and vomiting or whatever, right? Yeah, malnutrition. And so that's how you get to that number. No, once you made it past a certain age, like 1, 5, 10, you had a very good expectancy to live into older age, right? So even in those countries. So don't get fooled by the thought that, well, in these, we've really made advancements. No, we haven't. When I was in medical school, one of the epidemiologists, preventive medicine people, they were giving a lecture and they showed us, over the past 100 years, we've increased the life expectancy. And he's telling me he's telling us the truth. They did, statistically, right? But he went into detail. He went into the subcategories, and he gave a percentage. What percent of that increased life expectancy was due to this, and this? He said, what percent was due to prescription medications? It was almost like 1%. Surgeries and medical advances, less than 5%. You know what over 90% of the increase in life expectancy over the past 100 years is due to? 2 things. Clean water. See, because 100 years ago, kids were dying of diphtheria and vomiting and diarrhea because the water was polluted. So clean water and childhood immunizations. The whooping cough and polio and things like that. Those are the two things that gave over 90% of the increase in life expectancy today is due to that. Less than 10% was due to any advance in medical science. And so before we pat ourselves on the back thinking that we're so advanced today that all this high-tech stuff is what's given us longevity, we need to give credit where credit's due, which is basic public health services. Basic public health. So we're going to go and travel around and see different cultures and see what their secrets are. Now, the book, The Blue Zones, was written by Dan Buettner and in conjunction with National Geographic. And in the book, which is promoted by Dr. Oz, Oprah, and CNN Sanjay Gupta, highlighted on Fox News, in the book, Dan and his team of researchers, they traveled the globe looking for the longest living and healthiest people on the planet. And so today we're going to travel with them and learn secrets that can help us maybe live long and healthy too. Now, the first question some people ask is, why are they called the blue zones? Is it because maybe their sky is clearer, they have blue skies, or maybe it's they're near the ocean? Well, both of these things, it could contribute. But here's what we can think of. When we think of the word blue, besides sadness, what are some adjectives that come to mind when we think of the word blue? For example, that Everett, he's a true blue friend. What are we meaning? Loyal, right. Faithful, right? How about faithful to the law? Some of you Christians have learned that God's law was originally probably written on blue sapphire stone, right? Remember that? Faithfulness, loyalty, devotion. These are the things that we think of when we think of the word blue. Well, the way that it got the name, the Blue Zone, is actually quite serendipitous because the team of researchers, they traveled the globe and they studied different cultures and which ones lived long. Very few groups got studied, obviously. But when they got all back to get their headquarters and they were sitting around the table and they were going through the data to see which cultures lived 100 years or more. Those are the ones they chose. They chose 100 years old as the cutoff. So if you live longer than that, and if one community had a lot of them, that got put in the book. If it didn't have a lot of them, that didn't get put in the book. So they were going through the data, they were calling out the data and the towns and stuff in the geographic area, and they had a map. And so the guy that was assigned to the map, when he was told to circle a certain area, he happened to pick up a blue pen. Now that sounds pretty random, doesn't it? That it could have gone any way. It could have been the red zones or the yellow zones. But I believe it was serendipity because when we think of the word blue, we think of faithfulness and loyalty and devotion. And I hope by the end of the presentation you're going to learn that that is the real secret of the blue zones, is those things. Now, where are they? Where are the blue zones? There are in the book, The Blue Zones, which I brought a copy of it today, so afterwards you can peruse the book if you'd like. There are 4 blue zones in the Blue Zone book. The first one is in Central America, Nicoya, Costa Rica. The second one is in Sardinia, Italy, Europe. The third one is in Okinawa, Japan, Asia. And then we have one in California, USA, right? Go USA! Right? Loma Linda, California. That's the 4th blue zone. So let's look at this. And so in preparation for our flight, please put your seat backs and tray tables in the upright locked position and put away all portable electronic devices, including, okay, get them out and silence them, friends. Put them on silent mode or turn them off. And we will start our adventure. Our first destination is in Nicoya, Costa Rica. Now, Nicoya, Costa Rica, most of us know that Costa Rica is in Central America. Okay? So, It's in Central America, but Nicoya is a state in Costa Rica that is on the west coast. You see that little peninsula sticking out? That little finger near the top of Costa Rica, that is Nicoya. And let's see what the team learned about them. First, they have faith. Now, because they are Spanish speaking, and you know the Spaniards are the ones who conquered, they are Catholic, just like much of Central and South America. They have faith. They're Catholic. And so they think that, well, maybe that might contribute to longevity, right? The second thing they do is they have exercise, and it's not just a little bit of 10-minute walking or 30 minutes in the gym. It's intense daily exercise. Why? They have to walk everywhere they go. They're not rich enough to have everyone their car or car and a half. So they have intense daily exercise. Also, because of their latitude, they have plenty of sunshine. And in fact, they have sunshine all year long, not just in the summer. So they have sunshine all year long. They're like many of the Caribbean countries where there really is no summer and winter, right? In much of the Caribbean, there's just the dry season, and then there's the wet season. Wet season is winter. So they have plenty of sunshine, and the team thought, well, maybe sunshine contributes to longevity. And now, some of us might be just taking vitamin D in lieu of sunshine, which that's not a bad thing to do, but they are finding out more and more that vitamin D is actually just the byproduct of sunshine. The main benefit, you'll have to come to the Total New Start presentation next year, okay? To get to the main benefit of sunshine. Sunshine is superior to vitamin D, okay? Water, the team studied their water, and they found that Nicoya, Costa Rica has water that has the highest calcium content in all of Costa Rica. Now, Costa Rica, it's a kind of a volcanic area, and it sits in an area that has high water calcium content already. But Nicoya has the highest. So they thought, well, maybe it's all the minerals. It could be, right? It could be the minerals in the water. One other group that was studied is Nepal. The Hunzas, they lived to 100, but now they're no longer because there was a main freeway built into Nepal. And guess what travels on that freeway? Delivery trucks bringing white flour, sugar, all that stuff, snacks. But Nepal, the Hunza people in Nepal, they live in the Himalayas. And they said that the Himalayas, you know, you got glaciers, right? I mean, the mountain's a glacier. There's snow on there all the time. The rivers that come off that mountain, which the Hunza people drink that water, they said you get a glass and you put it in that river and you take it out, you cannot see through that water. That's how much mineral it has. Because the glacier, as it's coming off, as it's just slowly sliding down, it's basically sanding down the mountain, the granite, right? Their water is just, they said that water has every single mineral essential to the human body in that water. That's in Hunzas in Nepal. So that's why, well, maybe they thought, well, that's the water content in Nicoya, Costa Rica. It's high in calcium. It's got a lot of minerals. Maybe that could be contributing. They're not mineral deficient. Well, it could be. We don't know, right? Their diet has a staple of three things: beans, squash, and corn tortillas. Beans, squash, and corn tortillas. You know, I think we had most of that today, didn't we, for lunch? The beans. Now, do you think that these are beans that the mother or the grandma went to Kroger and bought canned beans? These are fresh beans. And the squash, they picked them from their home garden that day. The corn tortillas, do you think that they're the 12 per dozen, a dozen per bag at Kroger in the frozen section? These are fresh corn tortillas that Grandma ground the corn that day, and they made fresh corn tortillas. I'm hungry already, aren't you? So those are that's their staple. Beans, squash, and corn tortillas. Did you know that if you ate that, that's a complete meal right there? It's a complete meal because you got your vegetable, you got your grain, and you got your protein. As we consider that, did you know that every single culture has their magic formula for a complete diet? You know, Asians, they have rice, and in the old days, unless you were rich, you couldn't eat white rice. It required extra processing. You had to eat your brown rice. You had to eat it with all the nutrients and the fiber. So they had brown rice, and they have their beans, right? The poor people. They had their soybeans or tofu. And so that's their complete protein and grain. In Africa, you have peas, lentils, and then you have teff, or rice, or corn, see? So every culture, South America has their rice or corn, and then they have their beans with it. Every culture, God has given them all they need so that they could be the healthiest that they could be. Every single culture, regardless of socioeconomic status. In fact, the poorer, the healthier. Now, because of their latitude, they have fruit all year long, fresh fruit. In fact, they have 2 growing seasons. You know how, like, in America, we have one fruit harvest? You know, my in-laws, they have fig trees, and so they get one harvest a year. And then it goes dormant because it gets cold. See, the fig trees are dormant right now. In these climates, they can have two harvests per year because they have a longer growing season. In fact, the whole year is a growing season. So they have the benefit of fruit consumption all year long, and this is fresh fruit. This is fruit right taken off the tree because, unfortunately, they're not rich enough for everyone to have refrigerators. So there's no point in picking a bunch of fruit and then refrigerating them and taking them out as you need them. You have to just go out and pick them fresh every day. You see, because they're so poor. If you've ever eaten tree-ripened fruit, the regular stuff is nothing compared to that, right? The tree-ripened fruit is just like vine-ripened tomatoes and such. You can't beat it, right? So maybe that was it. Another factor that they found with the Nicoya Costa Ricans is that they're elderly. They live with their families. Now, this is again because we touched on this at the beginning. This is because they're not a wealthy state, and so they don't have the money to spend on nursing homes. They might have some for the wealthy, but unfortunately, the elderly, they can't just go into a nursing home, so they have to stay with their families. They have to stay with grandchildren and great-grandchildren. They have to at least do what they can to help out at home, maybe grind up the corn tortillas. Do you think that would shorten their life or lengthen their life? It gives them meaning, friends. It keeps them connected, right? And everybody's doing it, so it's an expected thing. And so when you have multi-generational families, it gives meaning to that elderly person. They don't feel like they're a useless part of society, just taking up resources but not contributing. That grandma, yes, it's true. She cannot farm the farm. She might not be able to go to town to go to the market, but she can do something. She can pick the squash for that morning, right? She can grind the corn, right? And so it gives purpose and meaning in old age. And you're going to find that this is a common thread. Meaning in life, purpose for life, right? Now, interestingly, the team found out that over 70% of the men in Nicoya, Costa Rica admit to having cheated on their wives. The team thought, I wonder, could adultery be a longevity factor? My wife said it would shorten a man's life, and I believe her, friends. On to the next destination. Moving on to Europe. We're going to go to Europe next. Okay, Sardinia, Italy. Sardinia, Italy is this red island. Now, you remember in elementary or high school geography, they taught you that, Italy is like a boot, right? And the boot is kicking a football, so that's Sicily. But Sardinia is at the knee. You see how the boot, the knee is kneeing Sardinia, the ball. Okay, so that ball right there is Sardinia. That's an island on the west coast of Italy. Let's see what the team learned about them. First of all, Sardinia, Italy is basically a volcanic mountain. You know that all of Italy is a volcanic zone, right? And so the whole thing is a volcanic zone, but because it's that way, it's pushed up a lot. So there's mountains. There's mountains everywhere. And so what they have to do, they have to walk up and down the mountains every day. Basically, they're doing stair climbers all day long, right? So they get plenty of exercise. Another thing they do is they celebrate elderly people. We're seeing a theme here, aren't we? They celebrate elderly. They have parties. And so that gives them connectedness and meaning. They also have a peculiar cheese called pecorino cheese. This pecorino cheese is gotten from special sheep called the pecora sheep. And those sheep eat a special grass. And the sheep's milk has a very high level of particular fatty acids. And so they thought, well, maybe that might give some longevity. Maybe, right? Now, a warning to you cheese lovers. I did want to include here a warning just in case you decide, well, you know what, I'm going to go try some pecorino cheese. The pecorino cheese, the Sardinians, they have a special dish called kazumarzu. Kazumarzu. And what they do is they intentionally introduce live fly maggots into that cheese. Boy, actually, I'm glad we finished eating, didn't we? Now, I did research on a do-it-yourself how to make kazumarzu at home. But let me see a show of hands. How many want to know how to make kazumarzu at home yourself? I don't see any hands. Okay, I brought about 15 recipes. Okay, so for any of the strong-stomached and brave-hearted folks. But I will tell you one warning is some of the Sardinians pick out the maggots before they eat kazumarzu, and others. I'll leave it at that. Okay. Now yes. Okay, well, we have a legitimate question here. She's asking, what's the purpose of the maggots? Why would they introduce maggots into pecorino cheese? And so that gives me a little bit of liberty here. You weak-stomached folks, you can plug your ears for this one here. Now, the purpose of those maggots is, see, if your kazumarzu contains dead maggots, that's bad cheese. Throw it away and get a good one. Okay? A good kazumarzu should have thousands of live maggots in it. And what the maggots do, they go through the cheese, they travel through the cheese and eat the proteins. And then they have to eliminate that, right? That's what gives it the peculiar flavor. That's what gives it the peculiar flavor. It's those brave enough to eat this cheese have described its flavor as spicy, pungent, peppery, sharp, or intense. Well, I guess that's a pretty accurate description of poop. So, I got some recipes here for you on recycled paper in good Paul Yim style, okay, afterwards, so you can get that. But that's, does that answer your question? Why? Okay, good. I'll get you one. The next thing that they discovered about this group of Sardinians is that they have a special wine. It's a red wine called Cananao wine. Now, Cananao wine is a red wine that's made from Cananao grapes. Makes sense, right? Cananao grapes. And the Cananao grapes, you've heard reports that, oh, red wine, it's good for your heart, right? It's not the red wine. It's not the alcohol. It's the red grape juice. It's the resveratrol in the wine from the skin of the grape. That's good. But you've heard that red wine is good. Well, Cananao wine has 5 to 10 times more of that than regular red wine. And so they thought, well, maybe that's the factor that's helping their heart, right? Who knows? Could be. But their longevity is rapidly disappearing. Why? Because they are adopting a sedentary lifestyle and changing their diet. Let's look at this. Here's Anna and her great-grandmother. Her great-grandmother's 97 years old. I hope 16-year-old Anna lives as long as her great-grandmother does. Now, here's Anna on the town with her friend, and what's she putting in her mouth there? Fried potatoes. I'm afraid Anna won't be living as long as great-grandmother because she's changing her lifestyle. And now, instead of walking the mountains, they have enough delivered to them that they don't have to do all the exercise. They're having a sedentary lifestyle. And so they are rapidly losing their longevity. Let's move on to the next blue zone, Okinawa, Japan. Okinawa, Japan is in Asia, and you know, Japan is basically a chain of islands. You know that, right? It's kind of like Hawaii, but a better analogy is Florida. So Okinawa, Japan is at the bottom left corner of Japan. Japan has a whole bunch of islands, but the last island you get to, which island, if you pass that island, you're no longer in Japan. You've left Japan. So it's the last island. It's just like the Florida Keys, right? Key West is the last one, right? So once you're at Key West, there's no more. That's where Okinawa would be. Let's see what the team learned about Okinawa, Japan. First, their diet, they learned that it's low in caloric density. What does that mean, low in caloric density? Here is an example of 100 calories. 1 tablespoon of oil, any kind. Oil is the most calorie-dense food that there is. You can't pack any more calories into 1 tablespoon than oil. That doesn't mean oil is bad. We're just saying that's the most calorie-dense. That is equal to 1.5 oranges. Now, both of those are 100 calories, okay? That is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4 cups of cooked broccoli. Now, you can see that broccoli is very low calorie density, which means it doesn't pack many calories in the given amount of space. So you would have to eat 4 cups of cooked broccoli to get the same calories as 1.5 oranges, which is the same as 1 tablespoon of oil. This is why we want to use oil sparingly, see? You just want to drizzle a little bit on. We don't want to deep fry, right? Now, here's another example that might be a little bit more familiar with the American public. Here's 490 calories, okay? 1 order of Biggie's fry, 490 calories. Now, this example I'm bringing out to show you that potatoes, you've heard that potatoes, they'll make you fat, right? Potatoes will make you fat. Stay away from potatoes. Bad. Make you fat. we're going to show you just how bad potatoes are. So we're going to use a potato product. This is why we're using Biggie's fries. That's 490 calories. Now, that is the same as 1, 2, 3, 4, 4.5 medium Idaho baked potatoes. Okay? Now, just to help us, because I doubt any of us regularly eat just plain old baked potatoes. So what we're going to do, we're going to make a hypothetical illustration. At the end of this presentation, you're going to thank me so much just for sharing truth with you. I'm only sharing truth, right? You're going to thank me so much. You're going to say, Paul, I'm so excited. I'm going to take you out to eat, and I want to talk more about this, okay? So we're going out to eat, and we go to a baked potato bar, and I lay down the rules, okay? The rules are, okay, we can go through the baked potato bar line, and we can eat as many baked potatoes as we want, and you can load it up with everything that is 0 or low calorie density. You cannot put high calorie density things in there because, see, we're trying to show you how bad potatoes are. Bad potatoes are real bad. They make you fat. So you can put all the sauteed onion you want, right? 0 calories practically. You can put all the sauteed mushrooms you want. And we're going to tell the cook in the back, hey, when you saute it, don't use regular oil. Just use a nonstick spray. Just to make the point that we're not adding fat to it. See? You're just sauteing vegetables, right? You can put all the salt. You can put all the cooked broccoli. Remember those 4.5 cups of cooked broccoli? You can put all the broccoli. You just heap it up. But you cannot put any cheese, sour cream, bacon bits, or any of that. Chili, butter. Thank you. Thank you. So we're going to load up the baked potatoes. How many loaded baked potatoes do you think that you could eat for the meal? Not as a side, but as a meal. 2. We got 2. Who to buy 3? Got 2. Who to buy 3? Who to buy 3? Got 2. Who to buy 3? 1. We have 1, 2. How about 3? I'm going to force you to eat 4. You're not leaving the buffet until you eat 4 with the skin. You got to eat the skin, the potato, and all those vegetables. You've just only eaten about 400 calories. If I forced you to do that 3 times a day, every month you would have to be losing about 2 to 4 pounds every month, like clockwork. Every month you'd be losing weight on a pure potato diet. 3 meals a day, 4 potatoes each, loaded up with all the vegetables you want. Why is that when potatoes are supposed to make you fat? Now let's instead of going there, let's say you say, hey Doc, I'm going to take you over to McDonald's or Sonic. We're going to get a Biggie's fry, and we're eating our 490 calorie Biggie fry, and we're not satisfied, are we? We're looking for the 600 calorie burger and the 250 Coke. Why is that? When you just told me you couldn't eat pure potato, 4 pure potatoes, it's not the potato, friends. It's the grease. You just told me you could not eat pure potatoes to even maintain your body weight, let alone gain weight. But when you add fat to it, you can go over the top, and now you're at a 1,100 calorie meal, right? And your Biggie's fry is not the main dish. That's your side dish. Don't be afraid of potatoes. Be afraid of the processed potatoes, right? And so potatoes are not your enemy. Eat them with the skin. If you wanted to do even better, sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes, by the way, are not even potatoes. They're not even the same family. They're an entirely different kind of food, but sweet potatoes are even far superior, especially for diabetics.
What about the skins?
Skins of the sweet potatoes, they're just as good. Yeah. So, Now, the Okinawans, they also happen to eat 8 times more tofu than Americans. Now, half the Americans that I talk to either have never heard of tofu or never tried it. But tofu they thought, well, maybe that's another reason, because that is a bean, right? That's a soybean. They make tofu out of soybeans. So they thought, well, maybe that's good. Now, we have ladies who are afraid of breast cancer because, the soybeans, soybeans, tofu could have estrogen that will make breast cancer. What they have found is soy does not cause cancer unless it's purified. So when none of the American women were interested in soy supplements until they took away the postmenopausal estrogen pills, Premarin. A couple of decades ago, they took away the women's estrogen hormone called Premarin, which was made from a pregnant horse. That's why it's called Premarin, pregnant mare urine. So they take their urine and there's a lot of estrogen in there, and so they purify that. And so they took that away because they said, you know what, we found out that we're killing women more than we're saving them. We've been giving them Premarin for 20, 30 years, saying, this is going to make your bones stronger, it's going to protect your heart. We've been killing them. Sorry, so take it off the market. And so the women were in an uproar. They were crying out, well, what do we take? We're having hot flashes. We can't sleep, sweating. And so they said, well, you know what? Soy estrogen, plant estrogen. So they started making plant estrogen. Well, when you take soy and you purify it, that could actually cause a little bit of cancer, breast cancer. But when you eat soybeans or whole soy milk like Silk and some of those other milks are whole soy, when it says whole soybean, those don't cause cancer. They actually reduce cancer risk. So when the soy supplements were causing about maybe 5 to 10% more cancer, breast cancer in women, if you ate the whole soy, you actually reduce your risk 10 to 20%. So it's not the soy that's the problem, it's the purified soy. Again, what do we call that? That's called processing, isn't it? When you process the thing in nature, the more you process, the more dangerous you make it, or you're losing a lot of the benefits. They also have a strong sense of purpose. In Japan, they call it ikigai. Ikigai. It means, what's your purpose in life? Why do you get up? And they found that having an ikigai, it adds 7 years to your life. Aspirin doesn't add 7 years to their life, and they're just recommending it to practically every heart patient, right? 7 years of additional life if you have a purpose. They also have a social network of elderly, and they call them moais. They're gatherings of elderly people, and every little town has a elderly club. It's kind of like a senior citizen center, except it's not one big center. It's multiple small clubs scattered throughout the town. And so these people, the elderly people, they get together and they celebrate their joys and their sorrows. They share their sorrows. Would we agree that that kind of social network is very important? I'm thankful that in the Western world there are churches that provide a social gathering, right, on a regular basis. And in your communities, in your neighborhoods, if you have more friends, that's all very good. Those would be called moais. Small gatherings, right? Now, here, if you get on the encyclopedia and you look up life expectancy by nation, you'll come up with lists like this. And here at the top, there's Japan right at the top. Okinawa is at the top of Japan. So Japan, as a country, they live the longest in the world. But Okinawa, they live the longest of the Japanese. So they're the creme de la creme, right? You got Italy, the Sardinians. They live the longest of the Italians. Now, let's see, where's the United States? You know what? It's not on the first page. You got to go to the bottom of the second page here, and here's the United States, and here's Costa Rica with Fidel Castro. They're above us. Costa Rica, Nicoya, Costa Rica. United States spends the most on health, and their life expectancy is one of the lowest, right? Now the Okinawans, they did live long, but they are losing their edge on longevity. How? They have the highest obesity rate now, and they have the most fast food restaurants in all of Japan. You know, food, like, and where did they get it from? From us. I mean, literally from us. They didn't just look over the ocean and see what we're eating and try to copy it. You know how fast food got into Japan? Fast food got into Japan because we have a military base there. On Okinawa, hundreds of thousands of Americans there. And you got to feed them. What do they eat? They eat fast food. So there's a bunch of fast food restaurants in the base. Well, the Japanese, the Okinawans, they looked over across the fence and said, "Hey, what are you guys eating?" They're learned to eat that way. In fact, they're doing better than we are in terms of, if you want to call it better. They got a quad burger, right? Some of them, they have a 10 burger. 10 patties. And so they have the most fast food restaurants in all of Japan, and they have the highest obesity rate in all of Japan. In fact, the researchers, they found two distinct groups of people in Okinawa when they were doing their Centenarian study. They found the group that was remaining loyal and faithful to their Okinawan way, eating their sweet potatoes, right? Eating their seaweed and stuff like that. And then they found generally the younger generation, they were getting more westernized and eating their fast food. And they found two divergent populations there. One is going to continue into health and longevity. The other is going to have the same life and health that Americans do because they're eating what the Americans do. Now, the fourth is Loma Linda, California. Here is a map of California, and Loma Linda is on the south end of California. And the way you get there, this is the only blue zone that is not by the ocean. Not by the ocean. See, Okinawa is an island, right? Sardinia, Italy is an island. Nicoya, Costa Rica is the coast. It's a peninsula. Loma Linda, California, the way you get there is you fly into LA, and you get to LA before the plane lands. You go out into the ocean, and then it turns and lands at the airport. You get in your car and you drive 1 hour east into the desert, and that's Loma Linda. It's in the middle of the desert. Okay, so let's see what the team learned about them. They studied the Seventh-day Adventists there because they happen to live. Many of them live long, and a significant percentage live to over 100. So the average life expectancy in America is about 78 years old. The average life expectancy of a Loma Linda woman was 91, and men were 89. So this is 10 plus years more than the average around them. Okay, let's see what the secrets of these people were. They kept a literal 24-hour day of rest each week. They call it the Sabbath, and it's a time to unplug from work and stress and plug into God and family. They thought maybe that one day of rest contributes to longevity. The second thing they have is a large social network. In fact, you can go anywhere in the world and you find a group of the same Adventists, and they're going to be studying the same Bible. They're going to have the same Sabbath school lesson, right? They're going to have similar beliefs. And so you have a welcome group already made for you. You will never go into a place and not know and feel like you're all by yourself. They promote a big breakfast. There's a saying, eat breakfast like a king, right? And so here, from near its beginnings, the Adventists had promoted eating a healthy breakfast. And so Kellogg's Cornflakes was started it was an Adventist organization. It was started by Will Kellogg. Here's one of their old-timey cornflake boxes. Now, in case you want to go and to the store, Kroger or Publix or wherever, and get some cornflakes because you went to the Secrets of the Centenarians presentation today, and you're going to incorporate cornflakes into it? The cornflakes you're getting today, they're not the same cornflakes as this. You're getting refined cornflakes, which means it's just the starch. These cornflakes, you better take your dentures out before you eat them. You might crack a tooth, friends. This was whole grain, and it was very wholesome. Others are bran flakes, and these days, Kellogg's, the vast majority of their cereals are very unhealthy. There are a few that are healthier. Bran flakes are healthy. Okay. Another thing that they promote is a plant-based diet. They recommend a plant-based diet, and we know that there are a host of benefits from a plant-based diet, right? That diet is taken from Genesis 1 verse 29. Then God said, "Behold, I have given you every plant yielding seed, and every tree which has fruit yielding seed, to you it shall be for food." And so they promote fruits, vegetables, grains, beans, and nuts. And in the Total New Start presentation, you're going to find out what constitutes a vegetable and what grains are not, and what beans are not vegetables, etc. Now, the other interesting fact that they learned was the Adventists in Loma Linda, California were the only Blue Zone group that were not losing their edge on longevity. They were not losing their longevity. Why? Let's take a quiz here, geography pop quiz, okay? Which of these four do you think is Loma Linda, California? A, B, C, or F? That's right, F. This is Loma Linda, California, and the F, that is not relaxing morning fog coming in over the horizon. That's smog. That's smog, okay? Here, Loma Linda, California, I went there one time to spend a summer there. And I flew into the airport, and my cousins came and picked me up. So we got in the car, and we're going to Loma Linda. And he said, "Hey, you're gonna have a good time when you're here." And I said, "Oh, hey, what do you guys do?" "Well, I'll be working during the week, but what do you guys do on the weekends?" And he said, "Oh, we sometimes go to the mountains. We hike in the mountains." And I said, "Oh, well, where are they?" And he said, "Oh, they're over there." And I said, "Where?" And he said, "Oh, they're over there, but see, you can't see them right now because it's smog. It's daytime. But tomorrow morning when you wake up, you'll see them." And lo and behold, the next morning I woke up and went outside, and there's the mountain right there. There was so much smog, friends, you couldn't see the mountain. Okay, Loma Linda is surrounded by fast food restaurants. It's immersed in air pollution, traffic, stress, right? Noise pollution. And yet they're maintaining their longevity. How? Faithfulness. That's why. It gets back to the original question of why is it the Blue Zones? Faithfulness, loyalty, and devotion. It doesn't matter which culture. You might have been born in Sardinia, and your ancestors might have lived to 100. But unless you live like your ancestors, you ain't living to 100. You're losing your longevity. And so here at Loma Linda, Californians, even though they're surrounded by life-shortening factors, right? If they are faithful to their beliefs, they're going to reap the results. In fact, it occurred to me that in that book, it has the 4 Blue Zones, right? Got Nicoya, Costa Rica. You got Sardinia, Italy. You have Okinawa, Japan. And you have Loma Linda, California. It occurred to me that if those people in Loma Linda that are 100 years old now, 100 years ago, if them and their parents had not been faithful to what they believed, even though at that time science was saying, vegetables, garnishing, don't eat them. You need to eat your meat and potatoes. If they had been unfaithful to what they believed, they wouldn't even be in the book, friends. It's because of their faithfulness back then, when society was going against them, that they are even in the book. And they are the most genetically diverse blue zone. What does that mean? Did you know that if you and I went to Nicoya, Costa Rica, before the Dan Buettner's Blue Zone team had come down, they wouldn't even interview us. You know why? We're foreigners. They're interviewing the genetic Nicoyans, the ones who have been there for hundreds of years. Same thing with Sardinia, Italy. Same thing with Okinawa, Japan. Loma Linda, California. When you go and meet a group of their people, do you see a homogeneous ethnic identity? Do you see it all black or all brown or all yellow or all red or all white? No. You see a hodgepodge of people, right? They take all comers. All comers, as long as they follow the recipe, they're going to get the same benefit. See? And so they are the most genetically diverse blue zone in the book. In fact, every other blue zone is very genetically homogeneous. You can't even get in the club. So many of the articles, CNN and all of these others, they have live longer with the dishes from the Blue Zone and things like that. Now, Dan Buettner here, the Blue Zone book, published by National Geographic. I don't know if you are aware of this, but National Geographic is not a Christian organization. It's a straight-up atheist organization, right? And here in the book, Dan Buettner, he says in the book, even though I will never become a Seventh-day Adventist, if I do what they do, I expect to get the results that they get. He couldn't say that about the other three blue zones. Why? Because they're all genetically homogeneous. They're all the same. But only the Adventist blue zone, he realized he could copy that, and he should get the same results. So which blue zone for me and which blue zone for you, who we are not native Nicoyans, we're not native Sardinians, we're not native Okinawans. For someone who's of any background, which blue zone could we participate in and expect to get the same results? Only the Adventist blue zone. And so that brings us to the end of the book, which has 9 secrets. He summarizes it into these 9 secrets, okay? 9 secrets from the blue zone. Number 1, the top blue zone, be active. Regular, low-intensity physical exercise, and you want to make it a part of your day. You know, the most common problem many of my patients have is they say, well, Doc, I have a desk job. Sit at a desk for 8 hours. You can incorporate activity into that 8-hour day where you will actually perform even better if you do that. And that's in the Total New Start presentation. Harahachibu, which means eat until you're 80% full. Avoid overeating. Now, some people chuckle because they're thinking, you know, how do you do that? How do you eat until you're 80% full? Have you wondered how you eat until you're 80% full? Okay. You might think that it's kind of like, okay, you pull up to the gas station with an empty tank and you say, fill it till it's 80% full, buddy. And you say, well, how many gallons is your tank? No, it's very easy. When you're sitting down to eat, you're hungry. When you eat 30 to 40%, you're still hungry, but you feel less hungry. When you reach the point where you're no longer hungry, you're at 80% full. But what do we do in America? 100%, baby. 100%. So we keep eating until we actually feel full. We're at 100%. We don't stop there. You never know when the next famine's going to hit, right? So we want to go to 110% or 120%, and now we're saying, oh man, I'm uncomfortable. We're at 120%. See, so if we just eat until we're no longer hungry, you're at 80% full, don't worry. Chances are there's going to be another meal coming in about 4 to 6 hours. You see, because we live in America. So that's how you eat hara hachibu, eat until you're 80% full, and you want to avoid overeating, except on Thanksgiving, right? Eat plants. All the blue zones eat lots of plants. Avoid meat and processed foods. In fact, the World Health Organization has said that processed meats, they are probable cancer-causing agents. Okay? And that's not just red meat, folks. I know some people say, well, I'm going to eat sliced chicken instead of sliced corned beef. All chicken McNuggets, tenders, all that stuff, it doesn't matter, white meat, red meat. If it's processed, which means it don't look like the thing that it came from, isn't it amazing how them chicken tenders look all the same? Because they're processed that way, right? They just smash the thing up and then they just put them through these forms is all they do. So processed meats, any kind, red, white, black, brown, doesn't matter. All of it, every processed food is a cancer-causing substance. And it's a simple reason why. Because so much of it has hit the air and has been heated. That's the reason why. Number 4, red grapes. And remember, the juice is just as good as the wine, right? Plan de vida, or in Okinawa it was ikigai. Have a purpose for your life. Why do you wake up in the morning? What is your purpose? And would you agree that the Christian purpose, that there is a grand purpose in the Bible, right? Right. So you can be a part of that purpose. Number 6, rest. Rest one whole day each week. Don't try to squeeze work into there. I had a friend who, he was a Christian, but he was having to work all 7 days, many weeks, just to catch up because he's a physician and he was burning out and he was overwhelmed. He was bringing stuff home and working almost 7 days most of the weeks. Faith. Have someone or something higher than yourself that you believe in. Why do we say something? And the reason is Okinawans, they don't necessarily have a religion. They don't have a deity that they worship. They worship their ancestors. But they don't really have a God per se, but they believe in something bigger than themselves. And that's very important. Number 8, family. You want to surround yourself with people who do the same thing, right? So family first. Share meals together. Family time together. And then finally, tribe. Have a group of people that are doing the same thing. That's why there are clubs. Friends, there are Harley Davidson clubs, right? People who do the same thing. There are clubs for mountain climbing. There are clubs for biking. There are clubs for everything. Why? That tribe is very important. It helps you to continue doing what you want to do. Now, in the book, they have, well, actually on their website, the Blue Zone website, they have a Venn diagram. So those of you who don't understand, who don't know statistics and data gathering, Venn diagrams are where you take circles and each circle represents a group of people. So, for example, down here on the bottom right is Okinawa, Japan. The top is Loma Linda, California, and the left side is Sardinia, Italy. And in each circle, you put stuff in there, the factors that you think are unique to them or that they do that helps them. And then where the circles overlap, that's the things they have in common. You understand that concept? So, for example, this group right here, they eat nuts. But see, these other groups, they don't eat a lot of nuts. But here, whole grains, and they're culturally isolated. That means these two groups, they share that in common. Well, what the researchers want to do is they want to find what's called the sweet spot. The center where it has the things that all of them do. Does that make sense? So all three groups do this list of things right here. And that's what we want to focus on, because that's usually where the biggest bang for your research is. So let's look at that sweet spot. Number 1, family. Number 2, no smoking. Number 3, plant-based diet. Number 4, constant, moderate physical activity. Do not do vigorous exercise. You're aging yourself faster than you need to. Moderate is where your sweet spot is. Social engagement, and then beans. Did I mention beans? Just checking. All right, so that brings us to the end of the Secrets of the Centenarian presentation. Thank you for your attention, and at this time, if you need to leave, you're welcome to leave, but if you have questions, we'll just stay behind here for Q&A, and we can go as long as you want within reason. Temperance, right? Temperance? Steve.
I lived in Oakland for 12 years. I lived in